Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Case for Construction Culture podcast. I'm here with Tony Belden, president of Tony Belden Co. Right, Tony?
Correct.
Welcome. Tony has done a lot of things that I'm inspired by. He currently sells tanks, domes, mixers, things like that. He knows a lot of people in public works. He was state director for the AWWA. He's been a sales engineer for Core in Maine. He's been a CEO, an owner. He's been a lot of things. But in my mind, one of the coolest things is that Tony used to play football for the University of Notre Dame, where I was fortunate to go to school back in the 80s and 90s. Welcome, Tony.
Thanks, Tom. Good to be here.
I obviously want to talk a little bit about public works culture, construction culture, safety, things like that. But I first wanted to just hear if you have a story or two, anything from your years at Notre Dame. I know you were there a little bit before me. I believe you played with Joe Montana and others, and I think you were a weren't you a specialist, a punt returner, or no? I'm getting that
I
wrong.
was mainly my contributions to the team overall my whole 4 years were mainly on special teams.
Special teams, special teams. Yeah,
Kickoffs, kickoff return, punt return.
that's
I
right.
used to go in on short yardage situations and try to fill the gap between the center and the guard and get into the backfield and create penetration so the linebackers could do their stuff and make tackles. And the Notre Dame thing just went way back for me. It was my dream school. I don't know why, but I started following Notre Dame when I was a young kid. And I grew up, in a pretty strong Roman Catholic family. And I'm youngest of six kids. And we had athletes, musicians, all kinds of different types in our family. We weren't locked into one certain area, but our parents always encouraged us to pursue the things that made us happy, and if we were good at something, to keep pursuing that. And so I did that, and I had an opportunity to go to Notre Dame out of high school, 1978 when I graduated, but Notre Dame had won the national championship my senior year in football. The 1977 Cotton Bowl, they beat Texas, and they stopped Earl Campbell, who was quite a great running back in his day. They really stifled him and won the game. And so I was pretty fortunate that I got offered a full scholarship to go play for Notre Dame after they won the national championship game.
Wow, wow.
So a lot of great memories. A lot of us that didn't start as much always wish we could have had more playing time. But I started a couple games my senior year at defensive end because of injuries, and
Hmm.
every game I was healthy for, I played in. So lifetime friendships, great memories, and to be part of an organization like that, it really can kind of set the stage for the rest of your life. And
Mm.
trying to see quality cultures, as we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but it had a big impact on me in my life.
Mm. It
I was happy I went. Probably would have
had to
played
be a
more
huge.
had I gone somewhere else, but they went to the Notre Dame. So
Yeah, yeah. What'd you learn about culture being around that world, Tony? What were some of the main things you learned
I
about
think
creating?
I think culture is the working environment that is created by leaders in an organization. So it's the environment that you're going to create for the football team or your workplace. And what does it look like? What do you want to create? Do you want to have uh, the scared workplace environment, a power workout, or do you want to have a team setting where everybody is kind of plotting together to achieve the same goals? And so, Notre Dame just learned that the winning culture was you got to practice hard, you got to work out. Things didn't always go well. We had a few good seasons. I did not win a national championship while I was there. We did play in two bowl games though, but there was a standard that had been set by all the past players and coaches that were there. we were just trying to live up to that, to all those traditions, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, boy, it's a lot to live up to. There's a lot of tradition there. It's not a perfect culture. There's been their mistakes and whatnot along the way, but pretty high excellence culture from what I could see in my years there, Tony.
Right.
Pretty
And
huge
who knew
commitment.
that Joe Montana was going to go on and win 4 Super Bowls? He did have ice running in his blood, though. He never really got rattled in a football game. We could be down by 3 touchdowns, and he was just going through his motion like it's just another day.
Yeah.
And I think that allowed him to achieve a certain amount of success because he wasn't the kind of guy that tensed up under pressure.
Yeah, if you
So,
can keep your nervous system calm, even in the face of physical threat or emotional threat, that is one of the keys to leadership anywhere, Tony. And I'm sure you learned some of that at Notre Dame.
yeah,
Stay calm if you can, if you're wired that way. And some people are have that ice in their veins, and some work to achieve a higher level of a calmer nervous system. That is a key requirement, I think, of leadership now more than ever with the stress and the tension in our world and the trouble in our world. We need leaders who are calm.
yeah.
So I
He
want to,
was it was obvious to all his teammates that when you played with him and watched him, go through his delivery and his backdrop and everything, he was by far the coolest cat on the field in the toughest times.
that's what you want in your quarterback. I know there's 1,000 more stories, Tony, but I'm wondering if we could switch gears a little bit here and talk about what are you excited about in your business? I know you've done a lot of different things. You're currently running your own show, selling important things to cities and municipalities. What are you excited about this year with your work? What's got you
I'm really
motivated?
excited. I'm really excited that I've had this, uh, that I went ahead and started this company. Um, I'm not in a position where I want to retire. I don't have a lot of outside interests other than sports and music and that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
I really like to just keep my head in the game. And, I get to work math every day for my job. And
Hmm.
I just, I don't have a desire to retire. But I had the desire to kind of run my own show again.
Hmm.
And after leaving the Engineering America situation, I went back to my love and was a sales rep for a company called G&E. And I had kind of a boutique special product line with them, just things that I've worked with for a long time,
Hmm.
bolted tanks, aluminum domes. But I'm really excited that I ventured out on my own. I was able to get the line secured and also maintain a strong relationship with the company that I left. I sat down about a year before I did this with the owner of the business and told him what my intentions were, and he was nothing but supportive
Hmm.
in me being able to do this, where I can, if I want to walk away, I can walk away on my terms when I want to do it.
Nice.
But it's exciting to see that the volume of business is still there. We're in the water wastewater business, so
Hmm.
we all need water and we need to dispose of our waste every day. And all those plants around the country, they're aging.
Hmm.
And so it's just
Yeah.
it's a never ending business. So it's a good
Hmm.
business to be in. I've got a lot of contacts that I've, gathered being in the same industry for 43 years. And this is my 44th year, I guess, that I'm in now. But
Wow.
yeah, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the people. I like solving problems for people. And it's kind of fun when the commission checks come to your house. You're not splitting it with the house. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I do know what you
So,
mean.
yeah. So I'm
Nice.
excited. I'm also excited. My daughter is working and doing administrative work for me. And um, I'm really trying to create a family legacy business if possible. And I'd
Hmm.
like to think, some of the challenges that are coming up are trying to figure out the timing of this, like a move to get a person involved. I got to think too, if something happens to me, how could we run the business? Could it
Hmm.
survive? And in order to do that, I'm going to have to start passing on these relationships and information over to somebody. and I've got a candidate. So we're thinking about that. That's going to be a challenge. Just how to figure out the whole timing. When is it right to pull the trigger on that one, and then um, training someone is kind of it takes away from you just can't sit and do your job. You really gotta take the time to train people properly,
Mm-hmm.
and that takes time.
It sure does. And maybe you're already talking about my third question, which is what are some challenges you're facing? I'm hearing the succession planning is tricky when you love being a salesman and you love being
Yeah,
out in the
that
field.
and then the challenge is always in sales. You're only as good as your next sale, so you've got to keep that funnel full of projects. Especially my jobs are big ticket items. They're big dollars, and
Yeah.
the project timeline it's slow sometimes. I could get a lead, and the selling cycle might not occur for 3-4 years from the time I initially start
Wow.
budgeting.
Wow.
So you've got to really, so that's a constant worry, what's my backlog at?
Yeah.
Um, and then bringing those commissions in and bringing in timely. I also have a buy resell product that helps the bottom line, and that's kind of my bread and butter. And you always wonder, you just don't know where it's coming from next. But you look at trends, and you look at sales, and the sales I've accomplished over the last 8 years or so since I engineered America, and I haven't had a bad one yet. So hopefully that
Hmm.
trend will continue.
That's good to hear. And that's post 2008.
Right.
I don't know if you'd have had a good one that year or not, Tony.
2018 is when I broke away and
Hmm.
started just going back into the sales thing full
Hmm.
time.
Yeah. And I know you've been part of a lot of different cultures, and I'm curious if you want to say a little bit more about your definition of culture, how you see it, or how you try to
I just
build
think
it.
it's a constant. You can't rely on your culture and say we have it. It's kind of like respect. It's got to be earned almost, and you've got to be steady with that. You have to do things that support a good culture. Want to have a good culture, you got to keep on doing things, whether that's, letting people speak, letting them be open, let them feel free to bring their concerns up and not fear backlash. Um, it's up to the leader of the organization to not only create the culture, but to maintain it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if people aren't playing in the culture and they don't seem to be a good fit, then you have to eliminate those issues too.
Hmm. Hmm. Sometimes you have to
So,
show those people to the door, and that's not easy,
no,
especially if it's somebody you've known for 10 or 20 or more years.
right. Yeah, no
And that
fun.
that
Yeah,
sometimes has to happen.
yeah.
And culture shapes so many things. It shapes success, it shapes profitability. I think it shapes longevity, but it also impacts safety. And I know you're not doing construction, Tony, but you're around people. And all of your products need to be installed. All of your products are part of machinery. Machinery can lead to injuries. What have you learned about what creates a great safety culture from the perspective of an owner and a salesman? What have you seen, or what do you think about what creates a great safety culture? It's such a passion of mine. And
Well, my approach was when I was president of the company, so around 2000 at Engineering America, the safety thing was really starting to turn, and OSHA was getting really strict, and uh, really they wanted to. Probably in other industries it happened sooner, but in the tank industry, we had a tough time forcing guys to wear their hard hats at one point.
yeah,
And me not having a construction background per se, other
yeah,
than just being part of the company that was construction. And at that point, knowing a lot of the ups and downs and the things that our crews were doing, at our peak, we had about 60 employees. So and I think one year we built 104 bolted tanks across the country, mostly in the West.
Wow.
Western United States and Midwest. But we had to, I had to go out and seek out professionals who really knew safety.
Hmm.
And I was able to connect with Deb Hilmerson,
Yes.
who had her own safety company. And we looked at a couple other contractors that we were friendly with and looked at their safety books
Hmm. Hmm.
and started developing our own company safety book. And that was something that every new employee had to sit and review and go over. So we did bring the culture in, and it was fought a little bit by the old construction guys that weren't used to this type of thing. You
Hmm.
know, the weekly safety meetings, sometimes it was daily safety meetings for some
Yeah.
companies. Um,
Yeah.
but we came a long way, but there was one meeting I just said, I was getting pushback. I said, "Hey, this isn't really a choice of ours. You know, this isn't a choice to do or not. We have to do this.
Hmm.
There's only one way to go here, and that's to implement this plan and then have some checkups. You know, so we did on-site visits that were unannounced. Deb Hilmerson did it. She's more into selling products for job sites, I think, more now than she was
Hmm.
deeply involved in safety, but she really helped us and guided us a lot. And so she would make, uh, you know, unflashed jobs to sites where the guys, they didn't know she was showing up. And she
Hmm.
was very professional, and she'd always have a follow-up report. And she would begin that report by explaining in the report all the good things that she saw on the job first, and the good things
Hmm.
we're following. And then here's some things that we need work on. You know,
Hmm.
the cords were exposed or stripped, electrical cords or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so then we'd have a checklist, and that would change the way we did things, not only on that job, but throughout the company, because we review those reports with all the construction teams.
Hmm.
So I think, what it was just again, the leadership of the company, and I certainly was there, um, along with our construction manager. We had to be on the same page on this thing. And we went at it a little bit early on. He finally acquiesced and then really took charge and ran a
Hmm.
great safety program. We'd bring our people in for a week in January, and it was safety training all the way. We managed to do our company party, and we did some other exercises with the company, team exercises, but it was mainly a safety meeting. But we would take a whole full week off of doing our jobs of building
Wow.
and and come in and just get trained. And then all the certifications that the guys needed, we tried to get those on a card they could carry, and it really worked well.
That's amazing, Tony. A full week. Almost nobody in my book of business does a full week of safety. What years would those have been?
Oh, from probably 2001, 2002 to 2018.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, for 18
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And what was the main business? What were the main things
Well,
you were building?
building bolted tanks. So the tanks would come from the manufacturer. They'd be delivered to the site. Our crews would show up, set
Hmm.
up jacking equipment. So the tanks would be jacked up. If people are out there know anything about the harvest or silo business, these tanks were called aquastores
Yeah.
from A.O. Smith. It's now private equity, but it was A.O. Smith at one time.
Hmm.
And so all the jacking equipment that we'd have, we'd bring it to the sites. And so most of our work was all done on the ground because we'd build the first ring first, or first couple rings, then build the roof, and then
Hmm.
jack these. They were like 5 foot rings, if you want to call them that. They're
Hmm.
bolted together sheets. So there's vertical and horizontal seams that are bolted together. And so there's a lot of handling of heavy steel.
Hmm.
Um, and it was tough work. I mean, it was bull work. And
Yeah.
then we changed some of the ways we built. We stopped handling these sheets so much and started using skid loaders and things like that to
Hmm.
bring sheets to the sites where the guys were, installing them.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was there was a lot of there's a lot of things that could go wrong if you didn't follow safety
Sounds
wisely.
like a lot of pinch points and crushed buys could have
Right,
happened.
right.
Interesting. Yeah, Deb has quite a good reputation. I'm glad she was able to help you, Tony, with that.
Yeah,
Um,
I really leaned into her and then other safety manuals and safety people that some of the bigger construction companies have, where they have their own safety
mhm.
uh, ambassador or whatever you want to call it. But
Sure.
and I tapped into those people too a little bit just to make sure that the trends that we were doing were staying up to snuff.
Sure. And you mentioned Deb was very professional. Are there other qualities that you see in great leaders who also are passionate about safety? Because safety's tough, Tony, especially in the guy world of construction. Safety is perceived as boring.
Right.
Safety, you can easily get complacent. And I know the bigger companies and maybe some of the bigger cities have better safety, but plenty of the smaller cities, plenty of the construction companies I still see out there are not exactly living by the best practices. I'm curious, what other qualities do you see leaders have, maybe in those some of those less than fully developed safety cultures? What do they have to make that things go well with safety?
You have to be direct and you have to lay your expectations out. And as I said, there's no other way. And not to say this is the highway or this is it, my way or the highway. It's not that. It's like it's the only way that you can do things now as a construction company is put safety first.
Yeah,
And those people that don't want to, if they're hurting your company and they could really damage your company financially by
yes,
not following safety and protocol, the things that they're learned and trained in.
yeah.
Shame on us if we as leaders won't train our people properly, but when we do train them, then we expect them to follow the rules and be complicit with what we're trying to do.
Mhm. Yeah, expectations are super important. I guess maybe one of the last questions, Tony, would be speaking of building good culture and speaking of changes with safety. And have you been part of any company where they had to make a change or part of any situation where you needed to use your leadership skills or partner with people to help lead a successful change effort? Because that part of my work, Tony, as you know, is helping when there's a desire and a willingness and ability to change a culture, to reduce the risk of injury or to reduce the number of injuries. I've done that kind of work. I know the heavy lift it can be to be a change agent. I see you as a kind of change agent, Tony, also with your background and your history. Do you have any story where you tried to help something change and it went well or it didn't go well? Do you have anything like that in your
I think, even though
work
we were
history?
very safety conscious, we still had, we had a major catastrophe. Luckily, no one was killed on the job, but we had a new way of lifting dome in place without a crane.
Hmm.
We used winches and cables and put
Wow.
them at pickup spots around.
Yeah.
And we kind of had a rule of thumb that the picking places were like every point on the dome, every other point we would try to put this winch and crane, which means we had to bolt that to the top or near the top of the tank, and then we would go around with cranks and we would slowly lift a little bit smaller lift dome. We'd leave the outside of it off and lift it into place so we could then connect it when we got it up and suspend it.
Hmm.
Well, we had well, there's one thing, there's dead loads and there's live loads. And for this particular lift, the dome turned into a live load because one of the cables snapped.
Mm.
I'll tell you why it happened, but when one cable snapped, we had a live load, which is way different than a dead load. But when something's moving
Yeah.
and in motion, so all of a sudden, all of these cables just started popping. And the thing
Wow.
came down, and we had two guys in the tank. One was sweeping, cleaning up the floor, which he should have never been in there.
Wow.
And he was able to drop to his knees, and he was like a summer helper he wasn't a summer helper. He was a student that was doing this to get some money before he went back to school. But
Mhm.
anyway, the the communication, this was in Colorado, and so the guy on the site who had to call 911 had to go down the mountain about a mile or so, and so we had no communication. I didn't know if this kid was alive
Wow.
or what. So we stayed in obviously suspension for about 3 hours until the police arrived. We're able to address the situation, get the kid to the hospital. And what we learned from all this was that the weight of this dome wasn't taken. It was a extremely high snow load area, which
Hmm.
meant the aluminum that's used for the dome was very thick and it
Hmm.
was heavier than any other dome we had ever lifted.
Mm.
So we had to kind of go back and really do analyze how this happened, what had happened. And my construction manager took it on and he basically explained the whole thing, but it made us rethink every time we looked at that weight. We knew that, anything that was larger, instead of skipping every pick point, we had to put uh, those rigs on every single point. We never had an accident after that. We didn't always use those, but in really remote places where you hard to get cranes in,
Yeah.
like on a mountainside, it
Yeah.
was it was a great way to do it. It just it could have been a total disaster, but thank God nobody got killed and everybody survived and we went on and we learned a lot. We
Wow.
implemented we implemented new things then, just,
Sure.
that's what happens when accidents happen, that they are accidents and you can usually explain them, but then you gotta change course.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I'm happy that that worked out well. That young man was able to recover.
yes, yeah,
That's often how cultures change after an injury or after a
right.
scary situation. Sounds
And
like
that
you
was my
guys,
that was my scary situation,
that's a
especially with the
scary.
non-communication, not knowing, really. We had to call the young man's family and tell him that there's been an accident and get more information to know. We wanted to at least tell him that, but it's a difficult calls to make.
Very difficult call. Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad that worked out, Tony. That's a lesson learned, and it's they say airplanes crash for 7 reasons. And as you tell the story, and they're often little things like somebody forgets to, check this
Right.
part of the engine, and somebody the flap wing was a little not perfect, and he said, "Oh, it's okay." And somebody the pilot came late, so he didn't go through all his protocol perfectly, right? Or
Hmm.
she didn't go through everything just right. So seven, and they pile up, So here you are,
Right.
remote location, extra thick aluminum, skipping every other place you could have tied it off. Young kids, seasonal help, shouldn't have been inside, right? You're getting up to seven. I think construction injuries are often kind of like plane crashes. It often is not just one thing, it's multiple things. So, sounds like you guys dissected the problem, you corrected it, and you never had that situation again. Sounds like.
Right. Yep. That's correct.
That's a great ending to a potentially very tragic story. People are in danger in construction. Any final thoughts, Tony, about that you want to share about culture, about communication, about
Culture's important, and we even do it here. We only there's only two of us, but the culture is and my culture that I try to build is you have to enjoy the ride. So it's got to be fun. It's got to be communicative, and we're in it together. We're teammates, and it could be two people, it could be 50 people. And the leaders have to be the ones that set the pace for the culture.
yes, I'm glad you mentioned fun because I know you were recently at Notre Dame for a reunion with how many guys, football players?
Oh, there was probably 150 guys that showed up.
What was the most
Yeah.
fun they had down there, Tony? A
Well, it
couple
was a
weeks ago.
wild. The campus is wild because they had recruits there. They had the recruits' parents. They had ex-football players. Um, but they really, Marcus Freeman, head coach, has made the spring game a reach out to all the football alumni.
Mm-hmm.
He says, this is your homecoming. We don't have a homecoming game per se at Notre Dame because all the games are kind of like homecomings. But
Yeah.
he calls the spring game our homecoming, and they throw out their red carpet and give us a few meals and beverages and let us talk to the current players. And the players would come in and they had a table set up on what position you played, and then those players could come up and visit you, and they could ask you questions about the real world and interest they had in working if they're not going to play. There's a big push at Notre Dame called there's a program called Land that one of my teammates helped start. It's Land after their life after Notre Dame,
Oh,
and they're working with these athletes, some who really crash out after their football is over because
I'll
they
bet they
feel
do.
that's their only thing. And this is a support group that they can go to find a career, get a little help if they need it, whatever their issues are. And it's an amazing program.
Oh, I'd like to know more about that, Tony. Land.
LAND, yeah.
And what's his name? Who's got this thing going?
Well, Jack Shields, one of my teammates started it, but there's a few other people. Jack runs a business and gave a lot of money to help set this up, along with the Jack and Catherine Shields Athletic Center, which is going up, the
Yeah.
athletic facility. I was able to tour that over the weekend.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame's got a special thing happening there. And the public's gonna see it and know about it when they open the place in August. And so
That,
opening ceremonies are in August, and there's 3 or 4 of us teammates that are driving down to see that. So
oh, that's exciting. Is that
yeah.
that's part of the land program?
Well, land they wanted to do land first, and then they wanted to create the greatest facility that they could in the country for athletes, all athletes at Notre Dame,
I
not
love it.
just football
I
players.
love it because most athletes, as good as they are at Notre Dame, and I knew I was a decent athlete in high school, and I felt like a nobody athlete at Notre Dame. There were just so many athletes hanging around that campus and so many
Right,
varsity athletes who don't go pro, right?
right.
What, 10%, 15% of the team? I don't know what the
And
football
not even that.
players.
It might be rising, but it was always a few guys,
Yeah,
1 or
a
2
few
guys
guys.
from each class or whatever.
And it's a pretty heady experience, especially if they do as well as they did, a couple of years ago, getting to the national tournament, and then and
Right.
then and then you graduate and what? Go to work making $20 an
Yep.
hour somewhere. And that's a different
We all
world.
go through it. I remember how lonely I felt that it was just because I love football so much, and when it crashes, and when it comes to an end, it's like over, right? Unless you
Yes,
stay in and you coach or do whatever. I
yes.
decided to go out and pursue a business career, but there's some tough times there. It's almost like a death in the family. It's
It really is. It
yeah,
really is. I've actually
yeah,
been in touch with Chris Zorich online. I'm sure you know Zorich, played for the
right,
Bears, but I've been
yeah,
in touch with him on LinkedIn a little bit, seeing what his business world is like. Some of you guys go off and become successful business people. I'm sure others get
right,
depression, mental struggles, all that
absolutely.
stuff that
And
happens.
they're helping all those issues out there with this new land
Excellent.
organization.
Excellent, Tony. So great to finally connect and do this podcast, Tony. I really appreciate you, what you're doing, your background. I think you're a great man, and I really value you. And how can people find you or your company? Where should they go if they're watching this?
Go to my website, TonyBeldenCo.com,
All right.
and pretty easy to find. Don't want to talk to me direct, you can put an inquiry form in and send it via the website.
Excellent.
And I do a lot of trade shows in the industry if it's water or wastewater involved. And
Yeah.
uh, yeah, invite any of your comments or anything. So
Awesome.
always good to
Awesome.
talk to you, Tom. Thanks for including me
Likewise.
in on this podcast, and have a great rest of the
Thank
day.
you, Tony. Go Irish.
Go Irish.